Hi, welcome to the Cyark channel. I'm here with Byron Merritt, Vice President of Retail Innovation at Nike and an alum of Cyark. He's here tonight to give a lecture, and thank you for taking the time to talking to us for the Cyark channel.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be back at Cyark. It's been a long time.
Byron, let me start with kind of the basics and kind of a crowd pleasing. As an alum of Cyark, how much the education, your time here has influenced your current role or your path on your trajectory as a designer, as an architect, as a thinker?
You know, I think one of the things that I took the most from being at Cyark that's been something that I've used along my career is this kind of entrepreneurial spirit that was kind of infused in us as students. When I think back at my time as a student here at Cyark, there was a belief that we could do anything, right? And that if we could bring that idea to life, you know, we could do it by whatever means necessary, you know. When I think back, particularly in the old building that we were in at the time that I was at Cyark, we had the ability to literally tear that wall down and build a project within that wall if that was the means for us to realize an idea, as long as we put it back. But I think it's that kind of spirit, that by any means necessary spirit of kind of articulating ideas and bringing them to life is something that I carry to the work that I do today. And
how do you think the way an architect or architecture thinking applied to branding and design, retail, digital platforms and so on? How you correlate that from one way to understand things into the one, or maybe still the way of thinking is pretty much similar?
As an architect, you have to deal with kind of multiple disciplines in order to realize a project. And that's even more so today, and particularly within the world that I live in, particularly around retail, right? Where the creation of a retail experience isn't only about like physical space, right? It's about service, it's about communication, it's about how product is presented, how storytelling comes to life. And all of these things, you work with a great kind of multidisciplinary team to get after these things. And I think that's no different from the way that an architect works when an architect's trying to realize a project, is that you rely on all the partners that you rely on in order to bring kind of form to life. And it's the same in terms of bringing experiences to life as well.
Can you mention some of your favorite projects, or the one that marked you the most, or the one you thought they were the most challenging and define?
You know, I think all of my favorite projects are actually the challenging projects. You know, a lot of us talk about just getting after those hard problems, you know. I think, you know, one of them in particular was a project around creating a new customization experience, but one that was really seamlessly embedded within, you know, someone's purchasing journey, right? And it was leveraging some new technology that allowed us to customize the footwear in a very short period of time and deliver it in a very short period of time. But what I most liked about the project was the utter service design aspects of it, right? So there were digital interfaces that needed to be designed. There were service elements and roles that need to be created and defined in terms of how a consumer was served. There were mobile experiences that had to be designed in terms of being able to connect the consumer with the things that they were choosing. Things that maybe people won't typically think of as design challenges, but the system infrastructure behind this. It was a highly technical kind of experience that was embedded in physical space. And those challenges are really interesting to me because it causes you to pull on any and all levers to kind of realize these projects and ideas, you know. So that's the first one that comes to mind. Launching of the Fuel Band was quite an interesting and challenging project for us as well, because that was a new to Nike and a new to the world project at the time. You know, there weren't really any activity tracking devices on the market at that time. And so,
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we forget that little thing.
We forget that, you know, we wear Apple Watches and don't think about it anymore. But at that time, I think there were probably two on the market, and so that was a whole new way of thinking, you know, and not just how we bring it to life from a marketing standpoint, but how do we bring it to life for the consumer in a retail context in a way that they can understand that proposition. We're used to selling footwear and apparel and equipment, you know, but we weren't a company that was used to selling digital enabled products that specific. So that was a memorable one.
Without giving too much away, what do you think is the future for retail?
I think broadly the convergence of digital and physical is where I think retail is going. And you see it happening, right? You see retailers that have started off as digital retailers investing in physical experiences, right? Because they're starting to see that being a pure play kind of digital company isn't enough for consumers. Consumers need a physical space to go to in order to touch and feel and experience products, and then get the right kind of services around those products as well, right? And so I think in a broad sense, you know, in the space of digital physical retail, it's about a convergence of those things.
What would be your suggestions, or what would be the certain points to pay attention if you're a young designer who is interested into, not necessarily into retail design, because I mean your career is way more than that. It just happened that this is what you're doing now, but it has been more about what I could talk about into the immersive retail and product design culture. What would be your advice, somebody who comes from the architecture side, or any kind of form of design?
Sure.
What to pay attention, how to move, what will be the main things to try to aggregate, to add to their knowledge?
This is a challenge to students, and I always give this challenge to students, is don't let school be the most creative time in your life.
Yeah.
And that's
tough.
It's tough, but it's something that I've always strived for, and that I encourage, right? Because my time at CyArk was a phenomenal time. You know, I studied with some of the most creative people that I've ever worked with, and but I'm fortunate enough that in my career I've equally worked with some of the most creative people in the world, and I definitely do so now. And that's allowed me to have a life and career that is more creative than when I was in school. And so I put that challenge out there first and foremost. You know, I think in terms of things to kind of think about is just remain unrelentlessly curious about the world, and step outside of your discipline, you know, and not be afraid to step outside of your discipline. I think in the places that I've been at Nike and at IDEO, the thing that I've found that's been most interesting about those places is that there's a discourse around the world, around things that are happening, around technology and culture and all that. The people that I've surrounded myself with are people that are curious about that, and we have a dialogue about it all the time. And whether it's directly relevant to the work that we're doing or not, it influences how we behave and think about things, you know. And so really staying curious and really making that attempt to keep a pulse on what's happening in the world in a very broad sense.
It's a pleasure to have you back in the school. It's always great to see the people who went to this place going into completely different trajectories, and yours is a remarkable one, so we are super pleased to have you here.